Henry Ford, many years ago, said, if you want to stop war, you identify who's making money from war. The situation in Iran will benefit the big weapons makers. If you're making weapons, the more conflict there is in the world, the more profitable it is for you. As there is aggression against a particular country, the share price of these companies will increase. So everybody invested in them then benefits. So the military space, the defense space, is characterized by something that we call the revolving door. The movement of people between government in various forms and these companies. 84% of generals who are retiring from the Pentagon in any 1 year go to work for big defense companies as very senior executives to whom they've given contracts while they were generals in the American military. All of these companies employ huge numbers of lobbyists, former politicians, people who are well connected to politicians, and these people are also part of that revolving door. So they are sometimes in government, either as officials or elected representatives. And it is actually these people, paid for by the defense companies, who write most of the legislation, most of the laws. The current Defense Secretary, Mark Esper, worked as a lobbyist for one of the biggest defense companies in the United States of America. Recently, in conversation with Elizabeth Warren, he was asked by Warren whether, when he's finished his stint in government, he'll go back to one of these companies, and he definitively wouldn't rule it out.
Will you commit not to work for or get paid by any defense contractor for at least 4 years after your government service?
No, Senator, I will not.
All right, so let me get this straight. You're still due to get at least $1 million payout from when you lobbied for Raytheon. You insist on being free to seek a waiver that would let you make decisions affecting Raytheon's bottom line and your remaining financial interests. And you won't rule out taking a trip right back through the revolving door. The American people deserve to know that you're making decisions in our country's best security interests, not in your own financial interests.
And that is the reality of the defense sector around the world. The best example of this is the former US Vice President Dick Cheney.
If we're going to talk about Star Wars, we might as well invite Darth Vader. And I'm happy to accept.
This is a man who served as Defense Secretary of the United States of America. When the Republicans then lost the presidency, he became CEO of a company called
Halliburton, proud to serve our troops.
One of the biggest defense service providers in the United States of America. As CEO of that company, he was asked what aspects of the war-making machine America could privatize. His company was paid $1 million to produce a study that concluded, unsurprisingly, that all aspects of making war could be privatized. When Cheney left Halliburton as CEO to become Vice President of the United States of America, he was the greatest champion of the American invasion of Iraq.
Simply stated, there is no doubt that Saddam Hussein now has weapons of mass destruction. There is no doubt that he is amassing them to use against our friends, against our allies, and against us.
Out of that deal alone, Halliburton is estimated to have made $38 billion. Cheney's personal wealth increased anywhere from between $60 and $100 million while he was Vice President of the United States as a consequence of the decision to invade Iraq, because he continued to hold shares in Halliburton. And that really reflects the nature of this revolving door. So you have people who are effectively making decisions that are life and death decisions for millions of people around the world. But they're making those decisions based not just on ideology, but also on the amounts of money that they can personally make out of it. How this push for war, what is described by C. Wright Mills as the military metaphysic, where everything in a society is seen through the lens of militarism, how this works in practice is when the American government, the administration, want to ramp up pressure on Iran, what they do is they alert all of the people who are regarded as reliable media pundits in the country, who they know share their view, to get on the TV screens. And the vast, vast majority of those people are former senior US military officers who, since leaving the military, have joined either defense companies directly or work as lobbyists for those defense companies. And those are the people who are all over American TV screens talking about how important this assassination was, what an evil man Soleimani was, and how, hopefully, this is the starting gun for regime change in Iran. But there is hope. And the hope is that more and more people are realizing that this sort of escalation in tension is not being done to create greater world peace, to create better stability, to create more democracy, but is being done for very narrow political and economic ends. The one thing we always learn from history is that especially politicians, and I can say this as an ex or recovering politician, tend to learn nothing from history. And at the moment, the United Kingdom, in the form of Prime Minister Boris Johnson, seems in some way linked at the hip to Donald Trump and the United States of America. We can never forget the role that Tony Blair played in enabling the devastating and ultimately tragic invasion of Iraq by the US, the UK, and others. Now is the time for us, ordinary citizens, to take those lessons of history and to say to our leaders, to say specifically to Prime Minister Boris Johnson, not in my name, not with my tax pounds. The only way we're going to create a more peaceful world is through breaking the media narrative that creates the fearful environment in which conflict flourishes. It's going to happen through alternative media like Double Down News. Go to the Patreon account. Please support Double Down News on Patreon.